Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to a special Saturday edition of the Watchman Newscast. I wanted to check in with you this weekend with some breaking news just announced today. The Iranian regime says it has successfully launched a satellite into orbit using a rocket. And this is a big concern for Western intelligence officials in particular, folks, because they believe these sorts of satellite launches help to aid Iran's ballistic missile program. Now, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, or IRGC for short, is claiming a big success here. Remember, we've documented this on the newscast over the past few years, really. Iran has been attempting to launch these satellites into orbit. They had failure after failure, and then they struck gold, apparently, earlier this year, successfully launching their first ever satellite into orbit. Now, today, they're saying it's number 2, and it comes, of course, at a time where tension over Iran's nuclear program is starting to build once again. And if you're launching a satellite into space for Iran, there's a direct line to their ballistic missile program, which has a direct line to the nuclear program. More on that in a second. But here is what CBS News is reporting about this. Just reading this straight off my laptop, some breaking news here. The rocket that was launched into space. They launched a satellite into space with a rocket built by the IRGC, according to Iran's state-run media. The West fears, rightfully, that this helps Tehran advance its ballistic missile program. Let's see what we had. The launch happened at the Revolutionary Guards launch pad on the outskirts of the city of Sharud, some 215 miles east of the Iranian capital, Tehran. Now, the launch was identified as a satellite-carrying rocket, as part of the launch, I should say, which the Guards first used in January, which, as I said, was the scene of another supposedly successful launch. And the Qaem 100 is the name of the rocket, and Qaem means upright in the Farsi language, which is spoken in Iran. Now, here's more from CBS News. The solid fuel 3-stage rocket put the Shamran-1 satellite, weighing 132 pounds, into a 340-mile orbit into space. Again, according to Iranian state media. Could Iranian state media be boasting and exaggerating a bit? There's a very good chance of that. But nonetheless, something happened today, and it does appear they successfully launched a satellite, even though there may be some exaggeration here. The rocket bore a Quranic verse, quote, "That which is left by Allah is better for you if you are believers." Translation, folks. If you're not a believer in Allah or in Islam, then the Iranian regime has a bullseye on your back. And that is the intention of launching this rocket, this satellite, into space. General Hossein Salami, yes, his last name is Salami. He's the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps. He praised the launch in a statement and said Iranian scientists successfully overcame the, quote, atmosphere of extensive and oppressive international sanctions, which brings us to the rub here, right? A few things. And by the way, if you're just joining us, we also want to talk Hezbollah. What is Hezbollah's perspective of this coming great northern war with Israel? And it's coming. It's a question not of if, but when. And talk of that has ramped up big time in the past few weeks, as we've been documenting here in the newscast. By the way, folks, hey, so you don't miss any of our newscasts, our live streams here in the channel, be sure to subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Hey, coming most days, Monday through Friday, and as you can see today, sometimes on the weekend, depending on the news cycle. And by the way, this is current news and events and breaking news from an unapologetically biblical perspective. So if you like what you're hearing and you want a biblical perspective on the events of the day, because at the end of the day, this is a spiritual battle, right? And you can't just analyze this, in my view, in the natural, from a purely just geopolitics and nothing else. We are locked as followers of Jesus, as supporters of Israel, as the nation of Israel, in an existential struggle for our very civilization. I don't say that lightly. It's a spiritual battle against demonic forces, with the Iranian regime the head of the snake in that regard when it comes to the Middle East, no doubt. But what is the big issue here? Okay, Iran launched a satellite into space. Big deal. They have the right to do that. Certainly they do. But the problem is ulterior motives. And that kind of technology, launching a satellite into space using a rocket, directly ties back to Iran's very robust and growing ballistic missile program. Now, Iran has probably the largest, I believe, ballistic missile stockpile in the entire Middle East. That's number one. Number two, I can speak from an American perspective. I'm sitting here in the United States right now. U.S. officials, in particular at the Pentagon, believe, yes, Iran is actively working on intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs for short. Now, what does that mean, ICBMs? Well, they do exactly what their name says. They are designed to travel, those intercontinental ballistic missiles, across continents, across oceans, and you build these ICBMs for one reason and one reason only, to mount them with a nuclear warhead. Do I have your attention? So those ICBMs are not for Saudi Arabia, even Israel, even Europe. Look, Iran has plenty of mid-range and short-range ballistic missiles to deal with those more immediate foes. No, the ICBMs are for the country that Iran regards as the Great Satan. That's the United States. So this was a very eventful launch today. A lot of people, the mainstream media, kind of shrugging at it. But if you look at the larger scheme of things, folks, it is a big deal, and it was worth reporting to you today because Iran continues to advance that ball down the nuclear field, and this is part of it. Hey, we want to talk about this Hezbollah perspective. Okay, we know what Israel's feeling about the north. The situation must change. It's unsustainable. Israel must change the equation immediately and get some 80,000 Israelis who live in the north back in their homes. We get that. We know that. Israel's leaders have made that abundantly clear. How does Hezbollah feel about this coming great northern war? Confident? Frightened? Apprehensive? Regretful that it threw its hat in the ring in the first place? I'm going to break that down in a minute. Before I do, big shout out. We're speaking to the displaced in the north. Big shout out to our dear friends Maypanim, who are the sponsors for today's newscast. Now, you've heard me, folks, talk about Maypanim for years now. This is a close partnership and friendship. I love and believe in this organization, this Israeli organization that is doing God's work. I'm asked all the time, Erick, how can I help? Since October 7th in particular, I can't get to Israel. What can I do? I bring you Maypanim, israelcharity.org. That's israelcharity.org. You see the information there on your screen. Folks, Maypanim not only has amazing soup kitchens, feeding Israel's most vulnerable, including children, including Holocaust survivors throughout Israel. But Maypanim, as the high holidays loom, most important dates on the Jewish calendar and in Israel, beginning October 2nd, we've got Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, a solemn time for the people of Israel, a time when people gather, that they break bread together, they reflect, they pray. Well, this year, it's going to be very difficult. This is the most difficult high holidays, I believe, since the modern rebirth of Israel in 1948. I don't exaggerate in saying that. Israel is locked in a multi-front war right now. Here's where Maypanim comes in. Considering you've got 100,000 displaced families still rebuilding their lives in Israel, you've got 100,000 IDF reservists away from their families fighting to defend Israel, 2.6 million Israelis living in poverty, 1 in 3 Holocaust survivors in poverty. This, folks, this is crazy. And Israel, look, it's a first world country. Yes, I know people say, well, Israel needs to help itself, and Israel does. But look, there's only so much in a nation of 10 million people, 7 million Jews, that's in a constant state of war. Look, Israel could use a few good friends right now. And Maypanim doing God's work. And if you're blessing Maypanim, you're blessing Israel. Here's what Maypanim has planned for the high holidays. 30,000 pantry boxes filled with holiday foods like apples, honeys, challah bread, 2 million shekels worth in prepaid grocery cards, giving families the dignity to shop for their own holiday meals. And 25,000 holiday meals and care delivered to these displaced families in the north, in the south, who can't return to their homes because of the rockets, Holocaust survivors, and IDF soldiers on the front lines. Folks, it's israelcharity.org. This is a great organization that I am proud to partner with for such a time as this. Check them out, Maypanim, israelcharity.org. Fulfill that biblical mandate to bless Israel in its time of greatest need. Okay, before we go, Hezbollah. Hey, they've seemed very bold and they're kind of crowing a bit, right, over the past several months. Remember, they unilaterally launched this war against Israel on October 8th, the day after the October 7th massacre. Hard to believe it's been nearly a year. But they unilaterally started this. And now I think they're saying, uh-oh, what did we get ourselves into? This is very similar to 2006, the last major Hezbollah-Israel war, where afterwards Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, was quoted as saying, wow, we didn't realize Israel would have such a fierce response after we kidnapped 2 Israeli soldiers from the Israel-Lebanon border. That was back in 2006. Same deal now. Again, Hezbollah, 11 months now, steady barrages on an almost daily basis against Israel, including several dozen just today and yesterday against Sfat in northern Israel in the Upper Galilee region. And now Israel has been bombing in increasingly intense ways Hezbollah rocket launchers throughout Lebanon, bombing deeper into Lebanon, taking out commander after commander at the top of Hezbollah's elite Radwan force. Really has Hezbollah right now on its heels. Now, it doesn't look that way on the surface because Hezbollah continues to fire the rockets, drones, missiles every day. I get it. But they are feeling a heavy sting in return. And now they're saying, wow, what did we get ourselves into? And they have committed, has Hezbollah, to continuing the onslaught against Israel until war in Gaza stops, until there's a ceasefire there. It doesn't look like that's happening. And Hezbollah's said, look, we won't stop until the Gaza war ends. Well, the more you're in it, Hezbollah, the more losses you're taking. And now they're starting to say, according to sources in the region, I want to report this, sources close to Hezbollah are saying, Hezbollah views this coming great northern war with Israel as, quote, an existential war, meaning this won't be half measures by Israel. Israel's going all in. And the goal for Israel, I believe, in this Hezbollah war that's coming is to decisively crush Hezbollah so that Hezbollah can never pose any sort of significant threat to the Jewish state ever again. Similar to what we're seeing in Gaza right now with Hamas and Islamic Jihad defanged by Israel in their death throes. Well, Hezbollah sees which way the winds are blowing. They're blowing to the north. As Israel winds down operations in Gaza, more and more it's shifting its focus to the north, gearing up for a ground invasion of Lebanon. That will be the only way to crush Hezbollah. No one wants to see it. It's going to be bloody, nasty, costly affair. But Hezbollah has left Israel with no choice. There's no way to restore some semblance of normalcy to northern Israel, return the displaced families home that Maypanim is helping so greatly, return them to their homes if Hezbollah is still perched on that northern border. It's a non-starter. It's unsustainable. Israel must act, and it may very well be sooner rather than later, and Hezbollah knows this may be for all the marbles. So folks, keep it all in prayer. We live in perilous times, prophetic times, Bible times. God is on the throne. He's in control. Prayer works, so keep it up. Hey, enjoy the rest of your weekend. If anything breaks, we'll be back to you with more updates. Until next time, God bless you, and remember, never hold your peace.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.